hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting of December 21st, 2022. My name is Tim Rainey. I'm chairman of the board. Mr. Brett Ragsdale serves as secretary of the board. Mr. Ragsdale, may I get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Ms. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Bostic?
Here.
Mr. Bruce?
Present.
Mr. Claybrook?
Here.
Ms. Scurlock?
Here.
Vice Chair Savage Jones?
Present.
Chair Rainey?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The Memphis and Shelby County Board of Adjustment is the oldest appointed governmental body in Memphis and Shelby County. We were established in 1925. The board hears appeals from the administration of the zoning ordinance, requests for variances from the zoning ordinance, and other requests as articulated by local zoning laws adopted pursuant to the enabling legislation. The 8 members of the board are appointed, 4 by the mayor of Memphis and 4 by the mayor of Shelby County, with confirmation by the Memphis City Council or Shelby County Board of Commissioners. We serve without remuneration. At this time, I'd like to swear in staff. You may remain seated. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting?
So moved.
Or is there a second?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion of those minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any in opposition? None, the motion passes. Mr. Secretary, could you provide us a secretary's report this month, if we have one, and then explain the procedure for today's meeting?
Yes, sir. I do have a brief secretary's report, and I would like to welcome 2 of our newest members to the board today, Ms. April Bostic, who is an attorney here in Memphis, and Mr. Kevin Bruce, also an attorney here in Memphis. Welcome to the board. We appreciate your service and look forward to working with you. We have a 3rd board member that will be new, is Aaron Campbell, and Aaron is an architect here in Memphis. So unfortunately, he was already scheduled to be out of town today, so he will not be here. So we are, our 3 new board members are taking the place of 3 previous board members, Ms. Joy Doss, Mr. John Jackson, who we've thanked before and appreciate their service, but JT Malazari, this was his first board meeting to not be on the council, but we appreciate JT's service and his thoughtful comments. And
Absolutely, yes.
So we welcome you and thank the previous.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I will explain the procedure for the meeting. The procedure for this meeting will be as follows. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda are found on the front right podium. For each case, the planner with the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation that will contain site plans, photographs, and maps of the subject property. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, the board will hear first from those speakers in support of the application, then from those speakers in opposition to the application, and then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to provide rebuttal. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the board will be sworn in by the chair. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's cards for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD staff member at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from the applicants since their names are already part of the public record. After all parties have been heard, the board will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. Pursuant to the board's rules of procedure, the time allotted for speakers will be as follows. The applicant has 5 minutes to present his or her case. The applicant may reserve unused time for his or her rebuttal. Those speakers in support of the application have 5 minutes. This 5 minutes is the total time allotted for support testimony, regardless of the number of speakers. Those speaking in opposition of the application have 10 minutes. This 10 minutes is the total time allotted for opposition testimony, regardless of the number of speakers. The applicant has 2 minutes for rebuttal in addition to any unused time from his or her presentation time. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the board. The chair may provide additional time provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. If the applicant or any speaker would like to be heard after the conclusion of the public hearing, or if a board member wishes to hear additional testimony from any party, a 2/3 vote is required to reopen the public hearing pursuant to the board's rules of procedure. Please note that once the public hearing is reopened, both the applicant and opposition will be allowed to provide additional testimony and/or rebuttal. All motions made by this board will be made in the affirmative. The private acts governing the board require the affirmative vote of at least 5 members to approve an application, regardless of the number of board members present. The board may also vote to hold an application for a period not to exceed 90 days with the consent of the applicant or 30 days without the consent of the applicant. All section numbers that we refer to come from the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, or the UDC, which was adopted by the Memphis City Council and Shelby County Board of Commissioners in August of 2010 and became effective on January 1st, 2011. I will introduce the entire UDC and make it part of today's record, thus dispensing of the reading of individual sections. The board is vested with the power to act on these cases before us today under the provisions of 9.22 of the UDC. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled as required by the UDC.
All right, thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, the board will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the secretary will call out each eligible case. If any member of the audience, staff, or board member objects to a case being placed on the consent agenda, he or she should do so by a show of hands when the secretary reads that case. Once the consent agenda is established, the board will vote on all cases placed on the consent agenda as a whole, will not hold individual public hearings on those cases. Mr. Secretary, which items on our agenda are eligible to be placed on consent today?
Item number 2, BOA 22-147, as 3337 Overton Crossing Street as a 1-month hold. Item number 4, BOA 22-151, 1546 Robin Hood Lane as a 1-month hold. Item number 5, BOA 22-156, 5268 Airways Boulevard. Item number 6, BOA 22-157, 7803 Hughes Glen Cove. Item number 8, BOA 22-159, 612 Life Avenue. Item number 9, BOA 22-174, 961 and 963 South Cooper Street. Item number 10, BOA 22-162, 4294 Sweeney Road. Item number 12, BOA 22-164, 3337 Summer Avenue. Item number 13, BOA 22-165, 2640 and 2660 Mount Moriah Road. Item number 14, BOA 22-166, 183 Chelsea Avenue. Item number 15, BOA 22-167, 1460 Union Avenue. Item number 16, BOA 22-168, 4657 Quince Road as a 1-month hold. And item number 17, BOA 22-169, 629 East Street as a 1-month hold.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary. If we could get a motion from the board to approve agenda items number 2 and 4 as a hold, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 as approval with conditions, and 16 and 17 as holds.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I want to remind you that by voting on the consent agenda, he or she, each board member affirms that he or she has read the staff report and is in full agreement with the conditions. Mr. Secretary, may I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Bostic?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce?
Yes.
Ms. Gerlach?
Yes.
Mr. Claybrook?
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Towns?
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey?
Yes. All right. The consent agenda has been approved. So if you're here for any of those cases we just called out, you're done. You've been approved or held as you requested. So the only cases that we have on the agenda remaining are cases 1, 3, 7, and 11. Mr. Secretary, will you call that first case on our regular agenda?
Yes, sir. It's item number 1, BOA 22-140, 4970 Summer Avenue.
Okay, is the applicant present today? Yeah, okay.
7 and 11. 16.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm Greg Gallagher. I'm here for Mr. Thomas E. Hanson. Mr. Hanson's health wouldn't allow him to be here today. it appears that my clients are delayed. If we could maybe go on to another matter and come back to this.
Okay.
Case.
Yeah, can we go ahead and,
Do I need to get these cards too also?
you can hand them to Mr. Skinner.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. All right, do you want to try another one, Mr. Ragsdale?
Yes, sir. Item number 3, BOA 22-149, 1998 Cowden Avenue.
Okay, is the applicant present on the, okay, the applicant's here, and is there opposition here today? Got cards, okay, thank you. If the applicant will go ahead and come down to the front for us, and then you can just take a seat on the front row. And let's see, Mr. Thomas, will you give us a staff report, please?
Will do. Give me a quick sec.
No problem.
Good afternoon. My name's Seth Thomas with the Memphis and Shelby County Office of Planning and Development. The case before us is BOA 22-149 at 1988 Cowden Avenue. The owner applicant is Anastasia Heron. The representative is Legacy Construction Services, and the request is a variance from paragraph subsection 2.7.2b and paragraph 2.7.2d4 to allow an accessory structure taller than the principal structure. Item 2.7.2d1a to allow an ADU on a lot less than 10,000 square feet, and item 2.7.2d1b to allow an ADU larger than permitted. The existing zoning surrounding the property is R6, and the area is about 0.1 acres here. So here's an aerial of the site in question. Here's the zoning map. So really the entirety of the area is surrounded by R6 zoning with the houses to the west of Rembrandt Street being within a historic district. However, this is not within a historic district. So the land use is a mixture of multifamily and single family, predominantly single family. Here's a site photo. So the house in question is basically a 1.5 or a single story house in between two larger single family homes. Here are some site photos as provided by the applicant of sort of either side of the lot and the tree that divide, or the fence that divides the lots, and the trees that are present in the backyard. Just a continuation of those photos. And then here's the photo of the alley that divides the properties that are on Cowden Avenue and the properties on the street to the north. This is a survey that was provided by Campbell Surveying. This is a site plan sort of showing where the proposed structure will be in relation to the principal structure. And then here are the elevations as provided by the applicant. So, in conclusion, the applicant is seeking relief from a bunch of different paragraphs, mostly surrounding the construction of an ADU on a lot that's less than 10,000 square feet, and then also in relation to the ADU being taller and larger, encroaching into setbacks for buildings that are located within a certain amount of feet to rear and side yard setbacks. The accessory building was formerly used as a detached garage, but has fallen into disrepair and been leveled. So the applicant intends to rebuild an accessory structure for both the use as a detached garage and an accessory dwelling unit. Staff believes that the granting of this variance will not cause substantial detriment to the public good or impair the intent and purpose adopted within the Unified Development Code or be injurious to the neighborhood and general welfare. So that concludes my presentation. I'm open for any questions.
Baker?
Yes, I have a question. How big is this accessory dwelling unit?
Let me pull it up. So I believe, here, I've got it written down somewhere. I believe the height is, well, here, let me zoom in on, if I.
I'm talking about the square footage.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, by my calculations, it's 1,489 square feet. Does that sound right to you?
So the garage, at least, they've sort of, at least in their elevations, kind of parsed it out, right? So the garage is 507 square feet. The porch, which isn't necessarily part of the structure, as it doesn't have a roof over it, is 48 square feet. So they'll have 521 feet of heated downstairs, as there will be the entrance and the stairway up to the accessory dwelling unit. And then the heated upstairs portion, which will be the ADU itself, is 567.5 square feet.
So that equals 1,000 and something, or 1,100 and something?
Basically, yeah, so the garage being the non-living part of it being 500, and then another 500 being the ADU for a grand total of square footage of 1,000 and some change.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, how much height difference is it from the main residence?
From the main house right now, I believe, well, here, let me see if I have it in here. I know it's substantially taller. I want to say it's like 11 or 12 feet taller overall than the structure. I'll certainly let the applicant sort of speak to the choices on that.
Okay, thank you.
And I have one more question, Mr. Thomas. When we talk about being larger, we're talking about the height and the square footage needing variances?
That's correct, because since the lot is under 10,000 square feet, it wouldn't be allowed for an ADU as is. As the current Unified Development Code says that ADUs can only be on 10,000 square foot or larger. Of course, there's a current ZTA that's going through to sort of change that. But yeah, so it's both the fact that this is a two-story structure and the principal structure is only one story, which, so it'll be taller than what it is an accessory to, but then also it's too large for the lot size. Those are sort of and then the other variance is more, so we have within the Unified Development Code that a structure over, I want to say it's 25 feet in height, can't be located within 5 feet of the setbacks as an accessory structure. So, of course, if you had like a she shed or something that was 12 feet, you could be building that right on the property line. But because of the height of the building, we generally ask for setbacks from that, which is sort of tied into the overall bulk of the proposed structure.
Okay. Any other questions of staff before we?
I want to ask Mr. Thomas, what are the rules about square footage on an accessory dwelling unit? I think you touched on it just now, but I may have missed it.
Yeah, so for ADUs, as far as square footage, it's 1/3 the square footage of the principal structure, or 750 feet, whichever is fewer. If the lot is, legal to have an ADU, which of course, as we said before, since it's under the lot size, it's seeking for that, but then also sort of the square footage changes.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? All right, if the applicant will come forward and state your name and address for the record.
It's Bracy Heron, 214 Mountain Brook Cove in Eads.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so be God?
Yep, I do.
Okay, go ahead and talk to us.
Well, I wasn't aware that, it's the structure, the one we had before was basically falling down. It's my aunt's house. And so we had to tear it down, and we were going to build another one in there. And we're in the setbacks, for the lot, the architect that drew it. So I wasn't aware that there was another code on it, but I knew on the, having it, being detached, that they had changed the rule from when she bought it about having, I had to have a variance. The architect told us that. But the one thing on the height, the existing house is 22.5 feet tall, and the lot drops, from slab to slab, the lot will drop 4.2 feet. So it's actually, from the street, it's only going to be, the ridge is only going to be 1 foot taller than the existing house. So that was, I sent that information in, but evidently didn't get in there.
So
And the reason, excuse me.
Sorry, how tall is the accessory structure?
It's 26, I think it was
Okay.
going to be 26.5, 27.
Right, okay. Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
And then we had one reason we did the second story is because there's 200-year-old trees on each side, and we were trying to be out of there where we didn't get into the area of those trees. which we sent pictures of on those. So
Gotcha.
I think we're 5 or 6 feet in. I think the setbacks are 5, 8, and 5, and we're like 6 feet on one side and 15 on the other, and I think we're like 15 from the rear. So we're plenty off of all the setbacks for the lot.
Okay. Do you know if there's any other accessory, like dwelling units? I know there's garages in the back.
Almost every house out there has, all up and down the alley. And
it is where people are living, not just the garage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, so both next door neighbors have accessory dwellings, and both of the neighbors were good with the, I think they sent in letters. They were fine with the structure. And it's my aunt's house, and she's elderly, and my sister is actually, we're doing it for my sister. And she's going to live in the back house and take care of my aunt in the front.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Seeing none. So unless you have something to add, you'll have a bunch of reserved time for rebuttal, about 7.5 minutes to add. So like really 9.5 minutes for rebuttal if you need it. Okay. If the, does anybody else want to speak in favor of this at this time? All right, then we're going to move to the opposition. If the opposition will come forward. I have Terry Ryan and Chris Kimbrough. Okay. If you'll give your name and address for the record.
It's Chris Kimbrough, 1997 Harbor Avenue.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
No, I'm not opposed to it in principle. I'm just a little concerned. I live across the alley to the back. So I'm the house directly behind 199 Cowden, and that structure at 26 and a half feet tall is going to kind of loom over my backyard. And so that was the only thing that I wanted to express. I was wondering, I understand that what he just said about the trees, but I was wondering if there was any way to perhaps make that structure shorter, like the structure that used to be there, because I couldn't see that structure, or they could see the very top of it, and then they tore it down over the summer.
Let me ask you, you don't have a garage in the back of yours, do you?
No, I have a shed.
Okay, I just couldn't, I'm just looking at the thing, it looked empty.
Yep.
Okay, and then I'll come back. What I want to know, the question I want to ask is, how far is this? Because it's not on that back line like a lot of the garages are. It's pulled into the yard more, so it's not quite as bad, but I understand your concern. Yeah, I do understand your concern.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
yeah, are there any other questions for Ms. Kimbrough? Okay, thank you so much. And then, Mr. Ryan, if you'll give your name and address for the record.
Terrence Ryan, 2015 Harbor, so I'm behind and a few houses up.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Ryan.
I do. So I took off the last one so I could come and speak in opposition, and this is my second day of vacation. I'm burning for this. So that's kind of how much I have invested in this. So when I talked to Seth about this, he said that he was looking at it from the street, and I get that. You know, you look at it from the street and you have two big houses on either side. And the structure is going to be behind that, so from the street it won't look bad, but we're the neighbors, the homeowners behind it, and every homeowner for those 5 houses behind, other than the one on the corner because that's a renter, are all opposed to this. The other homeowners couldn't make it in because they have to work. So, the roof line's 28 foot high, and with their elevation opposed to our elevation, it's another 2 foot drop. So it's going to be a 30 foot high structure. When I go out of my backyard, I want to see a 30 foot high structure in the backyard. And they said, well, it's not going to have any windows. I don't know if that makes it any better. There's just going to be a big building back there. There's only one neighbor that I know of that has an ADU, and that's the one to the left on the street. And that's right on the alleyway. It's an ugly building, but that's the only one I know of. And I've spent thousands of dollars in the last 2 years trying to make my backyard look nice. And this is where the sun goes down. This is where I go out on a porch that I built overlooking a water feature. So I'm just gonna see a structure where I really wanted to enjoy my backyard. So again, we're not opposed to the building. I understand why they want to build it. I just don't think it needs to be 28 foot high. And I reached out to Bracy. We called him a couple times and left messages. I actually talked to him once and he said that he would call us back. I said, we just want to work with you. And he never called back. So I don't think, I was hoping that he would have some intention to work with us so that we could kind of amicably figure out how to make this work. So other than that, I mean, that's really all I have to say is that, you know, I think it's great that they're having someone come in to watch over his elderly aunt, but I mean, can you just make it one story and spread it out? I don't, you know, maybe take the two-car garage out and make a house, you know, make a ADU that's not 28 foot high so that I can enjoy my backyard. That's all I got.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Ryan? All right. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here in opposition to this case? All right, then we'll move back to the applicant. We have 9.5 minutes of rebuttal. If you wanted to speak to any of that.
Well, in response to when I didn't return his call, he went around and talked to my aunt. So on that, so I figured he had already talked to her. But I told him there was no way to make a one story with it because of you know you'd be killing all the trees, and we're trying to have some green space still a little bit inside the yard. And I believe this house is 3 houses down on the alleyway. It's not directly behind the house, so I don't know how it's really affecting his exactly. And there are several of them on all the alleyways. When you drive on the different alleyways, there's several of them, 2-story structures all over them. There's some even down the same alleyway.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Are there any landscaping? There's no landscaping requirements or anything like that to help green up the back of that, you know, because the back, you don't want the windows on the back looking at the neighbors, but it just makes a big blank wall.
Well, it's kind of like the roof line comes way down. Above the fence, if you see on the plan, you'll see the roof, and then you'll see about 6 or 7 feet of the wall.
Gotcha. So go back to the one right before that. So the rear is the one middle left?
See, that's the front. Top left, the top left one.
Okay.
I think that's the right one. Top right. Yeah, top right, because it has the dormer looking to the side.
Gotcha, okay. Is the livable part of upstairs, is the roof built above the, is there any living area kind of into the roof area? Does that make sense? Like where it's 1.5
Well, it
story?
kind of comes down, and where the area towards the back there that's where the kitchen and hearth
Gotcha.
room and little living room is. And then if you can kind of see if you see on that bottom left, you
Right.
can see the 2 room, you see how the roof line comes down.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it has that, it comes down where it's got just the living area on the side, on the back side there.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none?
Discuss.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Oh, yeah, give your name and address for the record, please.
Okay. My name is Mary Heron, and my address is 1951 Poplar Avenue.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I've been is working towards building this house, and I'm moving there to take care of my aunt, where she can stay in that house until just the rest of her life. But I go there walking her dog every day, and I'll walk through those neighborhoods, and the variations of all the homes there, it is There's short, there's tall, there is no, from what I could see, any kind of code that really states that there is one house that is more proper than the other. And that's why I had this design that it's going to be a beautiful home, and I would do probably remodel my aunt's to bring that up to, more of a level with that home. But it's, I believe that, Mr. Ryan, who spoke, does not live directly behind. He lives 3 properties over from the house that is directly behind. And so I do believe that his claiming that he's going to be looking at something that is so hideous is not true. Because I've done a little research on who's done the complaining, and he is far removed from the visual. Now, the lady behind, I would believe, is more affected, but certainly not Mr. Ryan. And I guess that's about all I have to say is, and that the structure is going to be, if it's allowed to be built, and I believe it has a lot of promise for the neighborhood. So thank you very much.
Let me ask you this. Would you be opposed to putting some sort of taller growing shrubberies kind of on the back of it? So
Yes,
it greens up the back?
I would be happy to do that.
Okay.
And also there is, the alley, I believe, is more than 10 feet. There is quite an alley. And going down the other alley, going into Central Gardens, there is definitely a lot more 2-story structures that are built up to the fence. And, it's, Midtown is a mishmash of heights. And, and the house built, that we're wanting to build has no back windows. They would not be looking in, and we would not be looking into their privacy. And the 2 neighbors on either side, they've known all along, my aunt has a relationship with these neighbors, and they have been very supportive of this move. And they would have been affected more by windows, with them. And I do believe that they sent in emails supporting this venture. So, any other questions?
You know how far?
Yes, I would have landscaping done.
Yeah. Do you know how far the back of the house is from the edge of the alley? Because I have the survey, but this is going to be further. We're taking up more space than the original garage did, correct? It's going further back into the yard.
It is going further back to save one of the trees.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
The tree that's to the right, coming in from the driveway.
Both.
Okay, 12 feet just
I
from the
think,
back.
yeah,
to
that
the
makes
fence.
sense, looking at the little thing on this site plan. Okay. Are there any questions? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, are there any questions of staff before we move to discussion? All right, so we always do our motions in the affirmative. So if someone could give me a motion to approve BOA 20-149 as conditioned by staff.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Ms. Baker?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Here's the way I feel about this application, and I'm heard that neighbors say that, that they're not opposed to it if it could be changed in some ways. And I think it's laudable that you want to move there to take care of your aunt. But the way I look at this is that this application doesn't meet any of the standards for approving a variance. All due respect to the staff report, I just, I don't agree that a dilapidated garage is a hardship or a practical difficulty that has that connection, what they call nexus, to that because you want to replace a dilapidated garage, you should get a variance for an accessory dwelling unit on top of the garage or in addition to the garage. And I just feel like we should follow our own regulations on this and all of these applications. And of course, it doesn't meet that standard. The lot size is wrong. I wonder if it even meets the standards of an accessory building overall. If you look at the standards for an accessory structure, it's supposed to be obviously subordinate to the principal structure. And it's hard for me to see anyone looking at this that it is subordinate. And so if this were that they had a dilapidated garage and they needed a setback approved so that they could put it back on the original footprint, then I could see that connection and I could see how that would meet our regulations. But the situation that's before us today, that because they want to, because they need to replace their garage, that they therefore meet the requirements of hardship or practical difficulty to allow an accessory dwelling unit, I just don't see it. So I'll be voting against this application, and I hope that we will support the standards in our ordinance. So that's it.
I have a question. Will they need a variance if they just redid the garage? Staff. Mr. Thomas, would they need a variance if they were just rebuilding the garage as it was?
Sorry about that. If the garage was the proposed height, as in, let's say, they were just doing a single-story garage, then it would. But if they were, the height is kind of one of the keys to it on top of it being an accessory dwelling unit, because let's say if they wanted to do a garage on the bottom floor and then do a workshop up top, even though it wasn't a living unit, it would still need a variance.
Gotcha.
So.
What is the typical ratio we allow for ADUs, like to the square footage of the house, then to the ADU?
1/3 of the overall square footage.
And the house here is 12 something, a little under 1,300 square feet. Third of that would be 400, and this one's 11. Yeah. Any other comments or discussion?
I'll just, I agree with Mary as far as accessory, just by definition, and it being subordinate to the main structure and then to the height. I mean, even with a tree and with trees taking time to grow, they're driving along the front, the accessory is still dominant over the primary structure, so. It's just not fitting in with any of the codes that are at hand.
I think it's reminiscent of our house, I think, last week.
Yes.
Where they were gonna, I mean, it was a house next to a house.
Yes.
As opposed to an accessory dwelling unit.
Right. And
I think it looks really pretty.
yeah.
Oh, it's a nice building.
And I am sympathetic to the reason for the structure.
Yeah, and I think that goes into a lot of times, just so the applicant knows, sometimes we have an applicant that has a great story of why they're doing something, and it makes a lot of sense, and we're empathetic to that, but then what we're having to also do that, okay, something happens to your aunt, and then y'all sell the house or whatever, and then the next person moves in, And they're not taking, they're just like, they just have two families living on a property as opposed to someone that's the caretaker of somebody else.
Right.
And, because we're always doing it not really for you, we're looking at as to the property itself, because this lasts, in perpetuity as we make the decision. Just so you understand kind of some of our thoughts on that. Any other comments? Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. So Mr. Ragsdale, if you'll give us a roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Ms. Gerlach?
No.
Mr. Claybrook?
No.
Ms. Baker?
No.
Ms. Bostic?
No.
Mr. Bruce?
No.
Vice Chair Savage Towns?
No, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are not being met and that the property will be unduly detrimental to the other properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey?
No. All right, the motion fails. Thank y'all for coming down today. Mr. Ragsdale, could you call our next case we're going to hear today?
Yes, and we will go back to item number 1, BOA 22-140-4970 Summer Avenue.
Okay, is the applicant now present?
Oh no, I've broke the computer.
And was there any opposition today? I'm just seeing if there was any opposition to this case. Okay, seeing none. All right, Mr. Davis, if you could give us a staff report, please. And the applicant could y'all can have a seat on the front row.
Absolutely. All right. My name is Brett Davis. I am with the Division of Planning and Development. This is case BOA 22-140. It's been held now twice on the consent agenda at the request of the applicant. The location is 4970 Summer Avenue. The owners and applicants are the Bach family, owners of the Lotus Restaurant, which is what this application concerns. The request is a variance from subsection 2.7.1J, which is part of our accessory structure standards, to retroactively allow shipping containers to be used as storage sheds accessory to the Lotus Restaurant. Generally speaking, shipping containers are not allowed as accessory structures in any but the industrial zoning districts. That is what that subsection says. The area of the parcel is 0.4 acres and the zoning is CMU3. The site is on the Summer Avenue corridor, just within the loop. I did want to point out that our division, especially the Department of Comprehensive Planning, has recently completed this plan, the Summer Avenue Complete Streets Study, for much of Summer Avenue within the loop. And it's looking at ways to improve the streetscaping of Summer Avenue. So the street design itself, sidewalks, planting strips, etc. And we did take that into consideration when reviewing this variance, although it doesn't directly have anything to say about accessory structures. Here is the vicinity map. So exactly 25 properties were within the 500-foot radius to receive notice of the public hearing 2 months ago. Here is a satellite photograph of the site. So the site has double frontage on Old Summer and Summer. This is a car wash to the west. I will point out it doesn't show up great on this photograph. On the other side of Summer is a series of properties that are split zoned. They back up to Sam Cooper. So the half of those properties that front Summer are zoned CMU3. The back half is actually zoned light industrial, which you can see in this corner. Here's that zoning boundary. And of course, it's a mostly commercial corridor. Here's a photograph of the restaurant and site and the shipping containers themselves. There are two. Again, they're being used for storage. Here's a view west down Summer. And here's a view of the site with those shipping containers on the right side from Old Summer. So in conclusion, at number 2, staff finds that there is no unusual physical characteristic of this property as compared to other properties within the CMU3 district that results in a practical difficulty or undue hardship in following the UDC's accessory structure standards. Additionally, staff finds this request would impair ongoing municipal planning efforts related to improving the Summer Avenue streetscape, so we are recommending rejection. Thank you.
All right, any questions of staff?
I have a question. Do you know how this property came to the attention of code enforcement? I mean, was it some sort of code sweep that they did in advance of the Summer Avenue improvements, or?
I do not know. I assume it was by complaint, although I can say that these containers have been in this location for several years. Yep, I'm getting an affirmation, like a confirmation from Mr. Simmons. So it would have been by a complaint, although I don't know anything beyond that.
And to me, it looked like they were behind the building.
They are to the side of the building. So this attached sign is fronting Summer Avenue.
Oh, okay. But there would be room if they moved them to the back. I'm not suggesting they do. I'm just wondering. I'm just asking the question.
It's a little tight. This is a grassy area right here, and there's actually a garden growing vegetables behind the building, and then there's a driveway onto Old Summer. There's no curb on Old Summer, so possibly there could be room back there, but it does get tight.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, Mr. Gallagher, would you like to come? And you're acting as an attorney here, correct?
I'm sorry?
Are you acting as their attorney on this?
I'm subbing in for Mr. Hanson today.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and swear you in if that's okay.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to go ahead and swear you in if that's okay.
That's fine.
If you'll give your name and address for the record.
I'm Greg Gallagher, 5100 Poplar, Memphis, Tennessee, Suite 2515.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, go ahead, sir.
Could I call, it's sort of a unique situation, Mr. Bach.
Sir, I just want to make sure, can you make sure and get into the microphone there? Yes, thank you.
I'm bad about not standing in front of podiums. I wander like in front of a jury, but Mr. Bach, the owner, is Vietnamese, and he speaks broken English at best. He's had a stroke, so it's hard to understand him. I was going to put his son on and let him sort of explain everything.
Anybody that wants to speak in favor is allowed to speak.
It'd be better for the members to, I think they can understand him.
Okay, yeah.
So if we can I just put him up here and then I'll
Yeah, not a
ask
problem
him
at all. We just need to swear in. Anybody that's going to speak to us just needs to be sworn in, but it doesn't matter who it is.
Name is Justin Bach, 726 Stratford Road, Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, this family business is the first Vietnamese business in Shelby County, Tennessee. Is that correct?
As far as I know.
You've been there for 41 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
At this location?
At this location.
Where you are. You realize you're coming before this honorable board today to ask for a variance for help with y'all's restaurant. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Your father has placed 2 containers, and you see them up there. Those are freshly painted, are they not?
They are.
Okay. They have placed those 2 containers. They have been at this location right there for how many years?
For coming this next year would be 16 years.
16 years. Now, at one point, Ms. Baker commented maybe possibly it would be a situation where they could be put in the back. Were these containers, in fact, in the back at one time?
Yes, they were.
And y'all were asked, was it this board or was it the environmental court that asked y'all to move those to the location where they are?
I'm not sure.
Okay, it was one or the other.
It was one or the other, yeah.
And y'all complied with that and moved those containers to the location where they are.
That was what was recommended, yes.
Okay. Now, explain to the members, why is it that we're using these containers like this in order to, and tell them what they're doing. First of all, the restaurant, your father got that from the deceased owner's estate. Part of it was the car wash and part of it was that building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The building is a rather small building on the inside. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's originally the old Dunkin' Donuts, so it's small.
Y'all have the kitchen in there.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have the areas where the people sit down to eat. and you have bathroom facilities for male and female, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it's pretty tight in there, is that correct?
Yes.
As far as storage, things that y'all have to use for the business, over the years, have y'all attempted to store items in buildings, not these buildings, but other buildings close to the building?
Yes. We used to have like a Morgan structural building, storage unit in the back, and then it used to always get broken into. Lost a lot of supplies, lost like generators that we had bought just to kind of like make sure that the restaurant was running and everything like that. The last time that before we bought these containers to use, they literally ripped off the doors off the storage unit that we used to have in the back, and so we got these containers because they're more durable and harder to break into.
All right, let me ask you this. The other buildings that you had, they actually broke into them or broke the doors off and took every single thing, all items that were in there, is that correct?
Yep. And anything that we needed, like extra storage that we couldn't fit inside the restaurant, we needed to have, stored there.
There's very little storage,
Right.
if any, in this restaurant, is that correct?
That's true.
Now, you indicated to the members of the board that this restaurant has been in business for 41 years, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's how long y'all been serving that community on Summer Avenue.
Yep. Been very hard.
Okay, now, as far as profits, at one time, your parents were working other jobs in addition to doing this. Would it be fair to say that it was many years before y'all even realized a profit?
That's true.
Okay, so there was no money to try and make the building bigger to keep the supplies in there, so y'all had to use buildings on the side in order to store supplies.
Yes, and we were leasing at the very beginning, so we weren't able to do much to it.
I see. Okay. And the theft there, does it continue today?
It still continues today.
Okay.
I mean, there's so much stuff around that area. We even, in the back, used to have like a chain link fence, and then people started racing and everything like that. And there's like a corner on Old Summer in the back. Cars used to just, they pretty much ran into it and broke the chain link fence, so we had to take it all down. So that's the reason why there's no fence back there right now. But
Now, because of all the problems that y'all have encountered, I know COVID was tough on y'all beginning in 2020, correct?
yes,
You heard my statement to the board. Your father's had a stroke.
that's
How
correct.
old is your father?
My father's 78.
Okay. You had to leave your employment to come try and help save the family business. And is that what you're doing at this time?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Please tell the members of the board on how many occasions people have broken into these containers, actually broken in.
In these containers, they haven't been able to break into these, but they tried. They broke like locks and everything, but these containers have been the only thing that's been able to hold. My dad even kept the keepsake of like what they did to locks.
That was on.
That's on these containers, yes.
But these containers were strong enough
Yep.
to keep the criminals out and to save y'all. Is that correct? Save the supplies.
That's correct.
Okay. If y'all didn't have these containers, would y'all be able to continue in business?
No, because we need the storage.
The last time you were either before this board or before the court, I think Mr. Hanson represented y'all, and y'all were told to move the containers
From the rear?
from the rear to
to the
this
side.
location.
That's
And y'all-
correct.
And y'all complied with that then?
That's correct.
Okay. And y'all would be willing to do just about anything reasonable in order to keep these so that you can continue your business, is that correct?
That's correct.
How much longer do you think your father's going to be able to continue the business?
I don't know. That's the reason why I'm here.
That's the reason why you're here, because you're trying to help them continue, so.
Yep.
But again, these containers have been sitting there for 15 years in that location, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so if I hear what you're telling the members of the board today, because of the small size of the restaurant itself, there's no place to keep supplies, and machinery and things like that that are necessary for the business. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So you need someplace next to it in order to do that
Yes.
because of the continued theft in the neighborhood. Is that right, sir?
Yes. So much stuff.
Okay. Now, at this point in your father's life, moving to another location is probably out of the question. Would that be a fair statement to say?
Yes, but I mean,
Are you asking these honored members of the board to grant you a variance and allow y'all to keep those containers there and for the business to continue?
yes, I am.
All right. Y'all have cameras up, do you not?
Yes.
But all that's done is you just watch the people come and steal things from your
Yes.
business.
Yes.
Tell them about recently, when y'all put some plants outside for fresh air and y'all went to the church and came back. Were they all gone?
Yes, and just recently, like around about 2 months ago, parents and I, we came over to the restaurant to get some stuff before we went on to church. And then we just left and then came back, and about 5 plants were missing that we just took outside just pretty much for them to breathe, I guess.
Other these other buildings, these temporary buildings that were torn down by criminals, y'all lost a commercial heater, is that correct?
Yep, commercial heater. We also had a generator, commercial generator. We even had a trailer in the back of the restaurant with one wheel. We took one wheel off so that wouldn't be stolen or what have you, but they still came by and they still dragged it and stole it one day. And then we were able, fortunately, to find it again because they dragged it with one wheel, and so it scraped. The one that didn't have a wheel scraped. I've been back here since 2017, and since my dad had a stroke, and literally there's been so much theft, and we had cameras in that time, and all we could do was just call the police, and then they came, and then they took the video, but that was it. Nothing was done.
Have there been so many thefts since then that y'all haven't even called the police? It's just an ongoing thing?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Now, let me ask you this, and we pointed out to us, they're freshly painted white, is that correct?
That's correct.
They were white before. Is that right?
They were red before that.
Is that something? Tell me about?
That's the 10-minute time limit, but there's no opposition. You got 2 more minutes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sir, in addition to that, graffiti has been painted on these, and y'all refresh the paint on a regular basis so that it won't reflect badly for the neighborhood. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I do need to ask you another question. These containers, and I understand that this is an area where there's some mixed use. You have gone up and down Summer Avenue in that immediate area, have you not?
I have.
How many containers like that did you see that can be seen from Summer Avenue?
57.
57. Okay, and those were they as cared for as well as y'all's container?
Majority of them, no.
Okay. Have gang signs and things like that on them, sir?
There's a few that have.
Okay. And so again, what you're asking for, do y'all need both of these containers, or would one suffice, or do you need both?
Well, the stores that we've been using them for, we need both.
Need both, okay. If the board said, if you put a fence up or anything, any kind of reasonable request from the board, would y'all be willing to comply to try and keep those there and keep the neighborhood up?
As much as possible, since we've been there for so long.
Okay. Is expanding the building itself to be able to keep supplies on the inside of the building, is that even an option? Do y'all have the money to do that?
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I believe that's all we have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Your Honor, I'm so used to
I'll take it.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Gallagher, can you, Mr. Gallagher?
Hey, scoot over to the mic.
He has pictures of these 57 other containers. I don't know if y'all want to see each and every one of them, but he went and took pictures of every one of them. So when he says that he's got identified 57 containers,
We'll let you know.
we can
Yeah,
show you that.
Yeah, okay, I
if you'd
appreciate
like to
that.
see it.
Yeah. Ms. Baker?
Yes, I'm wondering, when you went before environmental court and they told you to move it around to the side, do you recall what you were before environmental court on and why they told you to move it from the behind the building to the side?
I'm not sure. You have to talk to my father for that part.
May I check and I'll see?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you in front of this board or were you in front of the environmental court?
Not this one.
Okay. Remember why they told you to move them, or was that just a compromise that was worked out between Mr. Skahan and the prosecutor?
Mr. Skahan told me so.
Okay. I'm trying the best I can to interpret what he said. At that time, he was represented by Gerald Skahan, who was one of our general sessions judges, and they were before the environmental court. He does not remember specifically what the violation was. He indicates that an arrangement was made between his attorney, Mr. Skahan, and the prosecutors in the environmental court to move him there. And that's really, I wish I could tell you more, but that's all he has. Thank you, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes, sir,
if I
please.
can. I understand that these containers have been there for 15 years, and that you've been before the environmental court before, and that a lot of your neighbors have containers. Forgive me if I missed this, but why? What prompted you to apply for a variance now?
Because beforehand, they were fine just sitting right where they were until.
I can help you on that one. We're in front of the environmental court right now, and this was our only option to try and make this work and continue the business. And I'll say this: one of the gentlemen is here from the environmental court. They were very kind to us. They've been very thoughtful and given us a lot of opportunities to try to work that out. We sincerely appreciate it, just as this board and the staff is, and we thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to ask.
Yeah. Do you know exactly what they were cited for? Was it just the containers? Was that what, is that what the site?
In this case, yes. In terms of, I'm not sure when it was in court last. I just asked Mr. Simmons.
But the current environmental court case, it really is just the containers.
This current citation is about the containers, correct? Mm-hmm.
You know, the minivan that sits in front, is there, like, it's been there for a long time.
Yeah, but it works. It moves.
Oh, does it?
I use it.
Okay. I drive by there all the time.
And I use it to move around the trailer, and then also like the lawnmower and everything like that.
Well, then it's there a lot.
That right there is, yeah, we literally, every summer or every spring to summer, whatever, it's just.
No, I mean, I recognize it because I drive by there and this angle makes it look like it's maybe has a flat tire. And so I was going to ask you to move it, but if it's a working vehicle, it's a working vehicle. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have with the containers is that they are what they are. I mean, I completely understand. It makes your business look closed. That's what I worry about the most. I mean, y'all have a great reputation, but every time I forget about them being there, and they've been there forever, and I'm always thinking, well, I guess they finally closed. Is kind of what I think when I drive by, and that's just my, it is, take it for what it's worth.
I mean, I don't even know why they wouldn't let us keep it like in the rear area beforehand, and they made us move it over there, because if it was in that rear area, it wouldn't have been much of a problem.
Right.
I mean, literally.
Definitely would open up the
It would have
front.
been away from the restaurant enough to where,
Yeah.
you'd be able to park right there, beforehand.
It looks like they're, looking at the aerial, it looks like there are some trees and
They're
everything.
cut down already.
Oh, so there are no trees back there now?
There's no trees back there now. I have a recent picture right here. There's only trees on the line on the right, but there's no more trees in the rear. All of that brush has been taken care of.
Right.
In hopes of if we have to do something.
I had a question. Are you planning on taking over the business after your father retires or decides he no longer
Well,
wants
at
to
this
do?
moment, yes, ma'am. That's the reason why I'm back here. Well, right now, since COVID pretty much hurt us a little bit, and then the restaurant just wanted to just start breaking down. So right now, we're in the midst of still renovating. So a lot of the tables and chairs and stuff like that are inside the restaurant are inside the containers. And then, let's see here, around about in beginning of January, we needed to fix some stuff out in the storage area that was in the back of the restaurant because the winter storm, what have you, the snow, it kind of like, the heaviness kind of like broke down part of the back. So we had to move 2 freezers outside, and I hadn't even gotten a chance to put them into containers yet. And then the next day, somebody came and stole 2 freezers that I had put outside.
Question for staff real quick. Does the staff know, I know, it is an interesting property that it fronts 2 roads. I think we all could agree that Summer Avenue should be the major road we're worried about, not Summer Road. Do y'all know of a reason that we couldn't say those need to go in the back and move them to the back?
So to my I'm not sure. I just asked Mr. Simmons if he had any knowledge of a previous citation, and he didn't. So it's very possible that it was not a zoning citation that landed
Sure.
the business in court last time. If it had been, we probably would have brought it to, a variance probably would have been sought at that time instead of just an agreement to move the containers, which weren't permitted. So I, if approved, recommended a condition simply that the containers be at least 20 feet from either right-of-way, at least 5 feet from each other in any other building, and at least 5 feet from any other property line. So that would allow them to be moved to the back as long as they were 20 feet at least from that property line in the back.
If we move them to the back, will you require any enclosures, maybe fenced off, gated off, some type of barrier around them?
These conditions would not do that.
You have a problem, I think we want them in the back. Just so you know, do you think they would fit in the back, being 5 feet from the restaurant, 5 feet from the property line, and still 20 feet from the street? Do you know how long they are? I'm looking at it overhead, but I can't. Seems like there could be.
Here's the view from Old Summer Road currently. I mean, it's not a direct view, but.
Okay,
Right now, all of those trees are down.
Yeah.
I've cut all of those trees down right there on the left, but there's 3 trees that are actually one, that's on the property line to our neighbors. But right here, where the garbage can is at, and all the way back to that property line on the other side, all of that rough brush, it's all chopped down right now. I even have a picture of kind of like that.
So what about directly behind the building? I'm looking at a Google map and it shows greenery there.
So there is a garden.
Oh, that's right, the garden. You did mention that.
Right here to northwest.
Yeah, we have a garden right there.
we don't have a site plan, so.
Right. That garden would have been a good spot for those containers.
If they pushed them back, that's encroaching into the setback, like if we move them straight back.
Is that a chain link fence to the west side of the property? So the long building?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
chain link fences over there. And then we're actually trying to put down a gate in the back and a new type of fence, steel fence
Right.
back there, but I mean,
So I'm just looking at that.
whatever we need to do.
I think my clients understand sort of where the wind's blowing at this time, and for what it's worth, they're willing to do whatever's necessary. And if the board feels like it would be a better arrangement, or they'd be in compliance with moving them to the back, they'll do it. They'll do whatever. They're trying to save this business. So
Right.
whatever it is they need to do. The problem is, we've got limited resources that we're working with, but they're whatever they need to save this business, they're sure willing to give it a try.
So in my perfect world, this is just my opinion, we haven't voted, those containers would move to that western line somewhere. But to get them close to the building, that goes on top of the garden. Could the garden move?
I'm sure we could.
Yeah,
work
that's,
that out.
We could work something out. It's just let us know kind of like what, because I don't want to block like that. We're not allowed to block the rear entrance to Old Summer.
Sure.
It has to have it. That's part of the code. It has to have an entrance to the.
I picked, just to tell you what I'm thinking, you take those exact containers where they are, pick them up, move them behind the building and all the way over to the west. So all the way closer to that chain link fence. But that would put it, I think, square on, and it's close to the building, within 5 feet of the building, I think would be the perfect spot of the containers. But that's the garden.
There's only one problem about that is because if we cover that west side over there, most of all the plumbing and the grease trap and everything like that is all on that side of because the car wash and then our lot was one property owned by one person. And then later on, when he passed away, we were able to get ours, but like the electricity and all the lines and everything like that go down.
Right down that fence.
That fence right there. So, I mean, if we take the containers and we put them right over there, it'd be blocking almost all of that, and we can't get to it in order to like clean grease traps or stuff like that. So, I mean, that was the reason why we had it on the other side, in the corner on the other side.
They would not move it back to the corner on the other side?
So you're saying the northeast corner, correct? Where those
yeah,
trees,
top right.
where those trees were, we could see a few minutes ago.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
I think maybe a
And then,
fence on
like
the east side.
6
where you
feet
have
from the road, we have to have landscape.
non-see-through material. So you basically block the view of the containers, but I don't,
Say that
I mean, if we
again.
can, if we could put like a covering over it or something like that if we needed to.
I think anything you can do to make those containers look less like a container would be good.
Okay.
That's just me talking like before, like how it makes your business look closed.
I understand.
And like, looking up your business, it's one of the few businesses in all of town that, I mean, it's not like 1 million reviews, but it's got 5 stars if you ever go there. And I'm sure you know this, I'm not, so, I think you can, if we can get something to work, I mean, there's definitely, you have a dedicated group that wants to go and not a single bad review. I mean, bad being 4 stars, not even a 4-star review, all 5 stars.
I was thinking of
sorry.
maybe a fence along the east side of the front and the east side of the containers where you can have some type of material that you can't see through. either a wooden fence or like a fence that had material woven through it so that you can't see the container, which would actually help with theft.
That's what I was just trying to say. If we could, I could do something like that to try. Because if you're going up and down the road, there are a few of the places that have like a fence like that, and then they have like a green kind of like covering on the chain link fence so that you can't really see into there. But still the tops of the containers still stick out so where you can see it from the road. Some of the pictures.
I'm just wondering if it would be too much to go back and work on this a little while and come up with a plan for a new location and whatever you might be able to do to make them look better, and work with the OPD staff and, come back with a resolution. I'm also worried and hope this would not be the case that, we might tell you to put them in the back and then the environmental court tell you to put them back in the front. We've got to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well,
So-
that's the reason why I was thinking it is like if we have to put them in the back, we try to put it in the back and then some way put like a fence up or cover it for now until we get something else.
I think what we could maybe do, what I would suggest we do, and piggybacking on what Ms. Baker just said, is hold this case here. We're moving it forward. That should hopefully make environmental court to understand we're doing something. Because I do get a lot of times people come here from environmental court just to pass, they're not trying to do anything. They're just trying to keep environmental court away, and you're trying to make it work. And we all recognize that, and that doesn't happen a lot of times. So we appreciate that. But you have a good survey right here. If you could, whoever's you're talking to at environmental court, I would think we maybe try to figure out some place in that corner where you cleared those trees. You don't have to, I would be okay with not a full site plan, but you could use this to draw in what it would be and show how it's going to be shielded from the street, landscaping or something like that. But that would maybe let you talk to whoever's in environmental court and say, do you think this is going to work? But that's kind of what we're going for. But I'd love to see it on paper, and that, okay, I've measured the containers now, we could fit them exactly right here. I don't think personally, I would require it to be 20 feet from Old Summer Road, but we wouldn't want it butting on Old Summer Road either. And I wouldn't want to see it from Old Summer Road. So that's where you'd have your site-proof fencing or whatever. That's kind of my thought. And that would we could see you next month, but we're moving forward, trying to find the best solution. We know, we actually figured it out.
There's other places that have they put I've seen they put like a covering or just pretty much kind of like enclose them.
Yeah.
So then it's like a structure kind of like enclose them. So either put I don't know, I'm thinking cheaper route, maybe put a tarp, whatever, over it, and I'm not sure.
I see that one of the members of the code is here, and he's been very helpful, and I sincerely appreciate all his efforts, and I'm betting we could probably work something out.
Okay, yeah, we'd love to see you next month with a.
This restaurant's been there for a long time, and it's a very good restaurant. So.
It is.
And they are required to do something. I'll probably be hearing from here on. Mr. Hanson, who's been their attorney, is his health. He thought he was getting a lot better, and he didn't.
Sure.
So it's probably going to be me, but we'll make every effort to try and get this resolved for you.
But I would me personally, I'd be thinking, what can I do that's green as, shrubs on one side and a fence, as opposed to building something that ends up falling apart or something like that. That's just something to think about.
Okay.
But, I really think you are trying to do your part to make this right, and a lot of people aren't. So we appreciate that. So would y'all be okay with us voting on a hold?
That's
for
fine.
today?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes, sir.
All right, is there a motion to hold this case for 30 days?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, thank y'all, and we'll see you hopefully in a month.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We appreciate your time. Merry
Thanks.
Christmas to everyone.
All right, Mr. Ragsdale, will you call the next case for us?
Item number 7, BOA 22-158, 4360 Don Street.
Okay, is the applicant present? Yeah, okay. And is there any opposition to today's case? No.
No, there hasn't been anything submitted.
Okay, very good. Mr. McKenzie, will you give us a staff report? And
Yes,
sir,
I-
you can have a seat on the front row while he does that. Thank you.
Okay. Because they want to wait, I'm sorry. This isn't, hold on one second.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened, but this is the BOA 2022-158. I'm not sure what I was doing with that typo, but it's still a variance to subsection 3.6.1A to allow encroachment into the rear setback for a single-family home. This is an aerial of the property. It is zoned residential, single-family R6. Everything around is zoned residential, single-family R6 as well. It just is a couple of site photos. On to the left is the front of the property on Dunn Street, looking eastward. To the right is a photo on the rear side of the property. These photos are also, I apologize for the blurriness, but these are also photos of the property as well. This is the site plan that was submitted. I'm not quite sure of the validity of the measurements because towards the rear of the property, if you do a measurement from the aerial, the addition is actually less than 5 feet from the property line. So I'll let the applicant speak more to that, but I am not sure of these measurements. But the conclusion, the applicant is seeking relief from 3.6.1.A to allow encroachment into the 15-foot rear setback. There is no hardship or practical difficulty presented by the applicant that justifies this variance. The applicant, there's no exceptional shape, there's no exceptional size, there's no topographic issues with the property. And so consequently, we would have to say this variance would cause substantial detriment to the public good and would impair the intent and purpose of the UDC and would be injurious to the neighborhood. So staff is recommending rejection. However, if it is approved, staff recommends the condition that any changes, deviation to the site plan, of course, be determined by the board, as well as the property's addition must be removed out of the 5-foot sewer easement. That is the very minimum. It has to at least come out of that. So that is my staff, and I'm willing to take questions at this time.
Okay, are there any questions?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
What, do we know what the intent of the structure that they're trying to, the extension?
Yeah, so the extension is to allow for a bedroom for the parents, disabled parents. The structure has been there for quite some time, is to my understanding. So it's not something newly built. It's been there for quite some time. I'm sure the applicant will tell us how long exactly. But it is to allow elderly parents to move in with them there.
Yeah, I have a question. Can you go back to that site plan?
Yes.
The rear yard, it's showing 20 feet, and that's where the encroachment into the 15-foot rear yard would be. And I couldn't make out for sure what you were saying before.
Right, so.
You don't think that 20 feet is right? Or?
No, I don't believe that 20 feet is correct. Just from the measurement that I took on the property, I don't believe that is correct.
Okay, now, can you go to the photographs that you had?
Mm-hmm.
Where are these images relative to on that site plan?
So they are on the, give me 1 second. I gotta kind of get my bearing. So the image on the left, I believe is on the right side. I'm trying to explain this correctly.
Because I think the image on the left is the rear part. The images are kind of tough to determine where those things are, but we've kind of looked at it a couple times. But yeah, it's the rear, which is the one on the left. If you go back, please. Yeah,
Which one's the rear?
the left image.
And you're talking about the skinny area between the fence and the building is the
Yes.
rear? Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So yes, that skinny part is, to my understanding, that is the rear.
And the rest of the building is off to the left there?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff? Hearing none, if the applicant will come forward and give your name and address for the record.
Reginald Henley, 4360 Dunn, Memphis, Tennessee.
All right, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so be God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Tried to get a permit to add an extension to the bedroom, 6 by 12 with a 2 by 4 closet, because my elderly uncle and aunt was moving from the Netherlands back here. That's the whole purpose of me trying to add on to the house. But because of something else that was previously done before I actually purchased the house, a lot of things that was done to the house was early 90s, early 2000s. And I actually purchased the house in August of this year. So I was talking to some of the people in the offices, and they said, well, I just inherited these problems. So that's basically what I'm trying. I know, if you add on, you need to get a permit. So that's what I tried to do. Get a permit to add on, and now I guess the problems that was already done was before me. It was this was my dad's house. My dad died in 2017, and I just got the house of August of this year. I was trying to get the addition added on before my two elderly uncle and aunt got here. So just trying to add on for the purpose of them. Now, from the side, it is 6 feet, and one of the people from the salutation, they came and noticed that it was 6 feet on the right side. So they said it should be 5 feet. So it's actually 6 feet. Now in the back of the house, one of the pictures on the left picture, it's actually 6 feet. But we was told that it should be 15 feet from the fence. But like I said, this was something that was done early 2000. Yes, sir.
Quick question. So right now, the picture on the left, that's the back, right? Looking across the back fence?
Yes, sir.
So what's there looks like like a screen porch and stuff
Yes,
like
sir.
that? So you're going to build this where that is? Is that right?
No, on the...
You're building it beside it?
Well, not actually beside it, but I think it's because we turned in I had the contractor come back out and do a better drawing than what I did.
Oh, good. Can we see that? Do you mind passing that around? Or can you show it on the little thing that we can never remember how to use? And I'm including me in that. That's a royal we. There's a little projector so we can look at that if you have a different drawing. There's a lot of stuff going on. So let me ask you this while they're working on that, Mr. Henley?
Yes, sir.
So you have just looking at other houses, there was the original house, and And then straight out the middle of the back, that's an addition,
Yes, sir.
right? What's in that? What's in that area?
It's a addition.
Like a den?
It's a den, and then behind the den is a storage unit. And
Okay.
what my dad did, he put a top from the storage unit to the back of the.
And that's that
He kinda made
porch.
the patio, yes, sir.
Gotcha, okay. And so if you will, go over, if you don't mind walking over there. Okay, so I'm seeing now where that addition is, over on the lower, well, kind of middle left side. That's the addition we're talking about now. Which, talking to staff, we normally wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that addition there. It's just all the other stuff that's the problem. Would that be correct?
As long as it meets the setbacks, that's,
Yeah, I mean, like where that addition is, it shows at 45 feet from the back fence, 6 feet from the side fence. The problem I think we're having is just where the storage building and screen porch have been connected to the house. It just shoots it makes the house go all the way back, because now we have storage building that's house. It's all under the same roof.
Correct.
Would we, let me, you can come back over here. Thank you, Mr. Henley. So I see the storage building on here, roughly 6 feet from the house, it looks like. And then there's a screen porch beside that and between it. Does that make sense? See where you have screen porch labeled?
Yes, sir. It's a screen porch between the back of the den to the outhouse.
And is there also porch beside the building?
No, sir.
But do you see where it's labeled screen porch? See storage building and screen porch?
Well, that's between the back of the den.
Okay.
The back of the den, the screen porch, and then the storage unit.
Mr. Chairman, I think if you look at the photos, the storage, the screen porch kind of does.
I see it. Yeah, it's wider on that side.
Right, yeah.
The contractor didn't show that roof is connecting all of it.
Correct, yes.
Question.
Yeah.
I think this is to staff. Where is that 5-foot utility easement that you refer to in the conditions that they have to get out of? Where is that on the property?
I'm sorry, say it again, I apologize.
Don't you refer to a 5-foot utility easement and that they have to make sure that they get the buildings out of that easement?
Yes, so based on I know it's not on that site plan, but typically there's always a 5-foot sewer easement on every property.
Sure.
And
It's
so it's
where?
my understanding, again, when I measured it,
5-foot
it was less than
utility
5 feet. So I was just saying, based on my measurements, ensure that the addition will be outside of that sewer easement.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're just talking about the general 5 feet
Yeah,
around
just
every
at
part of the
least,
lot.
if we're
that
gonna
we're
grant the
doing.
variance, it can't be in that at least. But based off this new information, looks like it'll be out of that anyway, so.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, from what he just said, he said it's not 5 feet around the fence on all three sides? Is that what you said?
It didn't appear to be when I looked at the area.
Well, according to the one that came out, he measured, I don't see his name, but I see his phone number. He came out on 10/28/22, and he acknowledged that it's at least 5 feet all the way around, and I do have.
Okay, I'll say one thing about that. That's great. If your fence is if y'all have measured between that rear building, like in person, and that fence, and that's bigger than 5 feet, that's good, so long as that fence is on the property line. They aren't always on the property line. You just would want to, a survey would tell you for sure, are we outside the 5 feet? But the problem we're having is basically the storage building and porch. Like your new stuff really isn't a problem. It's cleaning up the old stuff that wasn't done right is really where we are.
Well, like I said, that was done in
Sure.
late
should-
90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been done that way. I mean, the problem's solved if you just get rid of the porch, disconnect it or uncover it, right? I mean, that seems like now your house off the setback, the porch is, an open porch is allowed back there. It's the fact that you've continued roof basically all the way into that 15-foot setback is the problem. Especially like the storage shed, those usually aren't attached to houses anyway, but I understand how you like to sit on a porch and not get rained on.
Yes, sir.
I mean, but that's really where your issue is.
My dad was a handicapped person, so he liked to sit on the
Yeah.
back of the patio and cook fish.
So I'm just thinking, any other thoughts? Yeah.
And the thing is, if they did that, then they don't need a variance.
There is no variance, yeah.
So, and I wouldn't think you'd want to get your property tethered to Board of Adjustment if you don't have to, to approve something. So you may want to go back and just remove the offending roof and go forward with the rest of your life without us.
He's just using so much of the backyard like that. Any other thoughts? We're not even in discussion yet. We're just started that early. We're in discussion without being in official discussion. I would say if we deny the variance today, then your solution is, get rid of the roof and you don't need any variance at all. But they're probably not going to give you a building permit until you don't need a variance, if that makes sense. They're holding up the building permit because of something, the other offending thing.
Yes, sir.
How many square feet is the house? Do you know? I'll look it up. Was on that page a second ago. Mr. McKenzie, do you happen to know how big the lot is?
Yes, 0.163 acres, so I think it's
10,000.
just over 8,000,
Yeah, just over
8,500,
8,000.
8,600, somewhere in there, square feet.
One bedroom, one bathroom. And are you just adding bedroom, or are you adding any bathrooms at the
No,
same
sir.
time?
Just
bedroom?
Just add to the bedroom, no bathroom.
Is there
Mr. Chairman, I think if I can from Mr. Henley, because it's hard, this new drawing gives us a little better information. It's still hard to determine, but you're talking about adding a closet, right? Is that all you're adding is a closet?
Well, I'm adding 6 feet and then a 2x4 closet.
Okay, so you are adding, because the drawing I don't think showed that. But if you go back to that image, onto the right side, is that where you're adding? Is that where you're doing the addition? The right side photo?
Yes, sir, where the bricks is, yes, sir.
Okay.
Taking the bricks out and just adding the 6 feet.
Okay.
And then
Does the closet go to the side or does it go to the back?
to the back.
To the back. And based on that site plan, there was a lot of room back there for the 2x4 closet. I mean, even that's not it wasn't on there, but that wouldn't be a problem.
And basically, we just adding that closet for her, for medical reasons. She's on oxygen, so she have to have room for that.
Well, yeah, I'm confused again because is that gable roof part of the building on that left photo facing this way? Is that the closet?
No, nothing's been built yet. That is the existing storage shed.
So that storage
They've-
shed?
Yeah, where they
and
connected the house to the shed, like to
Okay.
hold up part of the porch.
Okay.
That's, yeah, he's not built anything yet.
Okay.
What are your thoughts? You seem hesitant for the screen to come off of the porch. Is there something we're not aware of?
You said, what are my thoughts about taking the roof off?
Yeah, the one that's covering the porch.
Well, my thoughts is, I was hoping I could come here and y'all will understand what I'm doing, and what was done before me was before me. And hopefully I can get a permit to build on and live happily ever after. That's
Well
my
said.
intention.
Yeah, that's how I'm trying to get to the root because it's like the solution seems simple and he's really hesitant. What's going on? And like was stated before on a different case, our decisions run with the property. So once you sell or leave or something, who knows what can happen. That is with that property. So there's no, and live happily ever after for you, but the property has got to fit within the building permit rules.
I understand, but from a standpoint of it's already there, I don't think y'all understand what I understand. It was already done before me, so it's like if I sold that house and someone else wanted to move in and build on, then they'll be standing in the same spot I'm in now. Because of something that was done, let's say 15 years ago. So for me to tear down something, just take the top off, just to add on 6 feet, then I'd be spending money both ways. And to me, I have to do what I have to do. If y'all say I need to tear the roof down in order to add the 6 feet, then that's what I do. But then if y'all say you can keep the roof and don't add on, then that's what I'm gonna do. Right now, it's all about money, time, and really, and that's why I was trying to get a permit, because I was trying to do it the right way. And trying to do it the right way, to me, got me here now. So if I had just went on, built the room without a permit, then I don't think y'all would have been involved. And that's just how I see it. Because I tried to do one thing and something else years ago showing up now because of what I'm trying to do now. So if I had to just went on, got the contract and did it, I don't think y'all would have been involved, because it's an 8-foot fence around the backyard. Letters been sent out to my neighbors. Neighbors have no problem with what I'm doing. But because of, I guess you said the roof need to be taken down, then if I take the roof down, can I proceed on with building of the
If you took the roof down, you don't even need us at all. Like, you're only here because what's already on the property wasn't proper, not because what you're doing, you'd have every right to do it.
And I understand.
Yeah. I got a question for staff. Is there a way we can limit the variance to not ever allow the porch to be, like if the porch is destroyed or has to be rebuilt, he would need another variance, like sunset it to the structure. So anything other than minor repair he can do. I mean, part of me is looking at it as like, well, the building can be right there. That's what's, if a neighbor was going to complain, that's what they see is the building in the back, not the porch that's kind of hidden. And it has been there for a number of years.
Right, and again, it's an 8-foot wooden fence, privacy fence around it, so the neighbors can't see in the backyard. And Mr. Clark, who lives beside me, he also have an 8-foot wooden fence.
Sure.
So on either side, the neighbors don't have any reason to complain about what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think I would be willing to vote for a variance in this situation if we tie it to that structure itself. Like not being able to, something happens to that porch, you can't rebuild the porch. But as long as that porch is standing and, Mr. Ragsdale.
Well, I just wanted to note that, Mr. Henley, I think that you've mentioned that a lot of this work was done prior to you, and I think there's potentially the building department who gave the citation, and so there may be some issues with the previous construction and permitting as well, just to, so when we say that if he does this, there won't be any issues, there may still be issues that
there wouldn't be any zoning variance issues.
Right.
Maybe.
Correct. And so,
yeah.
Of course, whoever owns the property now has the responsibility for those things. And so that would have to be addressed with, those questions would have to be looked at.
And you'd still have to get a building permit for the addition you're doing. Because the building permit, they're going to come look, so.
Correct. And if some of these additions were not permitted, they would have to also be inspected and permitted.
So what if, well, y'all want to move to discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You've been very helpful. Could we get a motion to approve BOA 2022-158 as conditioned by staff?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Well, if we're going to approve this because it's there and all the stuff that he told us, and we were going to try to sunset it somehow, then to me, it seems like it would be easier if it was just a clean sunset. When he came back here 5 years from now, probably it would have lived out his life and he could apply for an extension if he wanted to. And otherwise, we would be relying upon, I just don't know that there'd be any teeth in it. Not that, maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
What would ever bring it up?
Let me ask you this. Let's say we put 5 years on it. Every 5 years, is he paying a fee to come do it, or is that just coming back before us?
It would be another fee. Right now, it's $150 for an application. It may change. I was going to say, there's a possibility that when I mentioned the building permits, that might have some impact on these structures. And not to, have another hold, but I mean, we could hold this for a month. Let us get the building department to comment on those things and see where that stands, because that could, have an impact on how you might condition this or vote on it.
You mean there could be some electrical work that maybe wasn't put in right too and all that?
We haven't seen it. It could be, 24-inch on center rafters, things like that. I was thinking about that. I was also thinking, and I'm happy to go either way, of one of the conditions being that it has to pass inspection as built for it to remain.
Correct. Yeah, you could do that as well.
So would y'all rather do the hold or do the?
I'd rather do that. That way, it passes muster all the way through. He's not bouncing back and forth.
Just to be clear, it doesn't pass inspection as built. All bets are off, or he can fix it.
Well, that would be a code enforcement call.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I think.
But I would say that, I mean, it is a code enforcement, but if he fails inspection, has to tear it down, it has to be reviewed by all consistent parties, which means it would come back to the planning department, which means he would be back in violation of the setback, which means he would be back here again, so.
Okay.
If he takes it down, he's not in violation, is he?
That he doesn't want to spend, but not just taking the cover off the
Yeah.
patio.
Okay, I would suggest these two conditions. That the variance would last for 5 years. And so conditions by staff, variance can last for 5 years. At that time, he could come back and ask for another variance. And that it has to be given a certificate of occupancy, without being torn down.
A retroactive permit, or just, yeah.
Say that again.
A retroactive permit.
A retroactive
for
permit.
any, additions that were not adequately permitted or correctly permitted.
And my goal in that is if there's minor things that he can fix and it's good, electrical needs a little help, something like that, that's good. If we have to hey, this structure wasn't built right, then there's no variant, and it triggers that.
It's done, yeah.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that? Okay. All right, so thank you. If you can give us a roll call vote, please.
So is the motion amended to?
Oh, yeah, we do need to vote to add that. So I'd like to add that. Who gave the motion in the second?
I moved.
Okay, and y'all are good with those additions to that?
No objections
Okay, no objections. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
We have a parliamentarian.
I just want to make sure the conditions are sunset of 5 years, and what was the other one exactly?
It was that it would need to get a retroactive building permit.
All right. Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Bostic?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce?
Yes.
Ms. Gerlach?
Yes.
Mr. Claybrook?
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Towns?
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
Chair Rayner?
Yes. All right, it was approved. I like our applicant's confidence. Confidence is key. He felt good, and he took it on the road. So I enjoy that. If you can, Mr. Ragsdale, if you could call the last case for us.
Item number 11, BOA 22-163, 5701 North Angelo Road.
Okay, I see the applicant, and I don't believe there's any opposition to this case. If y'all take a seat on the front row real quick. And then, Ms. Shelton, if you could give us a staff report.
Give me just a moment.
Sure.
Just click on what number? Okay. All right. Good evening. Teresa Shelton with the Division of Planning and Development. We have before you case BOA 22-163. Applicant is Elliot and Alexis Montesi. I have a location at 5701 North Angelo Road. This is a variance from subsection 4.6.7C to allow a front yard privacy fence higher than allowed. There's a zoning map. This is zone residential 10. As you can see, all of it is residential in this area. And this is the subject property here highlighted with the star. Here is the subject property showing here on Angelo Road. This is a view showing north. This is the current fence that's here at this property. These are just street views of the homes in the area near this property where there are no fencing, privacy fencing located here in this area. This is the site plan the applicant submitted showing where they're wanting to place this fence. They have a note here, the fence will be on the property line and it'll be made out of wood. Okay, in conclusion, the applicant is seeking relief from section 4.6.7C to allow front yard privacy fence higher than allowed. The Unified Development Code, UDC subsection 4.6.7C2 states that for large front yards for single-family residents that are at least 40 feet from the public right-of-way or private street, fences and walls may be up to 8 feet in height, provided that they are at least 40 feet from the public right-of-way or private street. The applicant is seeking to build a fence on the property line as indicated in the site plan, and granting this variance will cause detriment to the public good and will substantially impair the intent and purpose of the adopted plan or the Unified Development Code, and will be injurious to the neighborhood and general welfare, and will not be in harmony with the purpose of the intent of the UDC. Staff recommends rejection because there are no other homes on this street with a privacy fence, which would be out of character for this neighborhood, and the applicant was given the option to build the fence in according to subsection 4.6.7C2 of the Unified Development Code. If you look at the illustration below, that says fences in a nutshell, which was done, I think, by our previous zoning administrator, Mr. Whitehead, that kind of gives you an idea of where they can put the fence and wouldn't have to come before the board. I've also kind of given you a kind of visual outline. This is not the exact 40 feet back. If you can see that little red line, it's just an approximity of where it could be. And if you look at the area view, it just kind of represents that 40 feet as measured on the zoning atlas. So if any change from this deviation of the site plan, of course, will go before the zoning administrator and be submitted to the Board of Adjustment for review and approval, or administrative review and approval by the Division of Planning and Development. And these are my conditions and recommendations. If you have any questions, I'm here.
I have a question. Is the current fence on the property line, or how many feet is it from it actually?
Let's go back to the picture. So you're talking about this fence here?
Yes, the existing.
It's on the property line, I believe.
But the UDC requires it to be.
Right, but see, this particular fence is not a privacy fence. What they're seeking is to do a wooden privacy fence, which means it'll shield, you wouldn't be able to see. So with this one that they have, it's a permitted fence. They can have that.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Shelton, I know that some like larger lots and things like that, I can think of the corner of White Station and Walnut Grove, have like, a brick fence. It's usually a pretty big, how do you get a brick fence these days?
I think it's a combination of wrought iron and brick, if I'm not mistaken. That's what the UDC calls for.
That one's brick and wood.
Is it brick and wood?
And it's been there for years, the one I'm thinking of.
You said, where is it located?
It's the southeast corner of Walnut Grove and White Station.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And right where Walnut Grove kind of curves. I was just curious if it was like on a bigger lot, you're able to do a brick, or how those maybe
I
change.
don't know. Well, the only thing that I saw in that section, it just speaks to they can have it higher. They can get the privacy fence, but they have to put it back. So they can have a privacy fence, and they didn't even need to come before the board. They just have to push it back 40 feet. And if you go, let me go back here. So like right here, if they pushed it back, this is the actual measurement, and I know you probably can't really see that.
Sure.
But this is where I measured the 40 feet back on the zoning atlas to kind of show where they could place it. But this would be just an approximity. They would have to actually get somebody out to really measure. They could put it back and still have their privacy fence. They won't need us. They just need to get a fence permit.
Right. Okay. Any other questions of staff?
I have a question, and you may have had this in the report, and I just missed it. How far back is the house setback?
I think it was 40 feet. I think they had to be 40 feet from the street. I'm not sure. It's going to be by the R10 zoning district.
Well, but the house must be further back.
You know how far the actual house is built?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. the applicant probably knows.
Yeah. All right, if the applicant will come forward, please. If you can give your name and address for the record.
Name is Elliot Montesi, 5701 North Angela Road.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead and speak to us.
Okay. So really the reason we're looking for this privacy fence here is we kind of got an unusual lot on an unusual street here. There is no backyard. I have a picture up there somewhere in the application. And in the front yard, there's such a heavy slope in that yard that there's really only one flat spot, and it's kind of closer to the front of the yard up there, and so that's why moving it back 40 feet would cut off that one flat spot. But what we're trying to do is put we want to get like a children's play set, right? We got a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, and we want to be able to put a play set, but there's only that one flat spot. But also, we don't want them just playing, and then we want some privacy for them. And since we don't really have a backyard, that's really the only place where we could do something like that. And also on that street, it's right off of Walnut Grove and 240, so we get a lot of pass-through traffic. There's actually speed bumps there, but that doesn't deter anybody. So, I mean, there's tons of cars come through there. And again, we just want to be able to have our kids play on the playground and not have, peering eyes of random people driving by, seeing them. I mean, there is one of the pictures is out there. Our neighbor across the street does have a fence. It's not a privacy fence, but they do have a fence. One of the main points is that I see is that it doesn't fit in. But the current fence doesn't fit in either. It's an old ranch style fence, and so if we got a privacy fence, at least it would match the other, everyone else's privacy fence. If anything, it may be detrimental to the neighborhood if we don't build the fence, because soon we're gonna have little boys running around, and we're gonna have a playground and cars and stuff all sitting around in the front yard, and I don't know if they want to see all that either.
So I had a neighbor across the street that built it. You can do a fence that's not, it can be a solid fence at 4 feet, correct? Problem is going above, so it'd be, for little kids, wouldn't be easy to see them for a while. we hope they ended up being taller than 4 feet.
Our oldest, he's 3, and he's already 3.5 feet tall.
Yeah.
So,
Question, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you thought about planting a row of hollies to make a green fence? Because that would be allowed.
Well,
a hedge.
We're also trying to.
I think it would be allowed. I guess should ask the staff that, but I think it would.
We're also thinking, cost effective. I believe that would be quite a bit more expensive to put the hollies in and maintain them. But we're also looking to maybe put a gate on the end of the driveway too. Like our neighbors across the street have actually 2 driveways, and they have a gate on both driveways. And then I wanted to bring up, what you were saying, sir, Mr. Rainey, earlier about, you drive on. I mean, I drive all over town, and I see lots of big wooden brick fences, right on the street, And so I figure, I was unaware of the
ordinance,
the code, right? So, when I drive by and I see them, I don't think, gee, I wonder if this is prohibited, but perhaps they were all grandfathered in,
it sounds like your primary objective, and tell me if I'm wrong, your primary objective is to allow the kids to play in the front yard without getting out in the street where the traffic comes.
Right.
And wouldn't, and like our chairman, I'm thinking, wouldn't a 4-foot fence or something less than the 8-foot, that tall privacy fence that you're looking for serve that purpose? Why do you really need the privacy fence? Can't you get away with the lower fence that you wouldn't have to come before us to get approval for?
Well, I don't want to go all the way to 8, just 6, or maybe we can compromise somewhere. But I mean, people, when you drive by 4 feet, you can still see over it. You can still everything that's going on. And also pedestrians walking by can see them and say things to them. I just want a private place where I can let them play and not have eyes on them and people talking to them. And I don't think I accomplished that before.
I mean, I think you're right. You don't get all your goals. I don't think we have the power to grant a variance just for a 6-foot fence. Like, it just doesn't, there's nothing so unique about this that why this should have a 6-foot fence when everybody else can't have a 6-foot fence. Like, I don't see I have the power to vote for it based on what I'm charged with. My findings of fact are just not there.
I agree with that, and what troubles me about it too is that you have options. Some may be more expensive than others and so on, but again, I don't think we can really make a decision because one option is less expensive or more affordable or something like that. It's just not within our purview to make a decision based on that.
Can I ask a question?
Give your name and address for the record.
Okay, I'm Alexis Montesi. Address is 5701 North Angela Road.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, I guess I was just curious, are there any exceptions when, like, our landscaping, for example, is just unusual for the area? Like, we're the only house our house is like down on a slope. And so if we were to build it back 40 feet, like he's saying, like all we would have is that like sloped area for our kids. I didn't know if there were any, if that's considered like a hardship.
The thing, you can always come up with a hardship. And that's your goal. I mean, that's what when you come to me like that, but it's whether or not we think it's a hardship. I don't know if I would. Like, I would think it was more of a hardship for this. And I get what you're saying. We don't have room to have them play back that far. But you also bought a house with nothing but front yard. Like, y'all knew that when you went into it, that we had just a huge front yard.
Yeah, we didn't know about this.
Yeah, you weren't thinking about them. But like, just for an example, let's say your house went straight up. That's when I'd be thinking, a bigger fence makes more sense because we're not actually blocking anything because you're on a hill. As opposed to going down, that makes it even less likely that I'd want to have a fence that close to the street. I mean, the problem too, I mean, like, I think you could get away with, you can go taller than 4 feet, I think, if it's site-proof. I mean, if it's like, say, wrought iron. So it's safe as far as, but, people can see them through the wrought iron. You could do wrought iron to make it safe and then do some bushes and stuff where you're not making a hedge, but that at least allows that separation. But I don't know. Go ahead.
I wanted to bring up 2 things. Yes, we did buy a property with the big front yard, but we also have driven all over town for 20-something years and seen lots of big brick and wood fences right on the sidewalk all over town. So, when you get ready for a house, all the things you got to get together. You don't think, maybe I need to check the code. You say, well, you see it everywhere, so you think you can do it. And then your second point about the wrought iron, the line of sight. So from the location of the property on the street, it's on the outer edge of a bend, so it's kind of a unique spot where it really wouldn't impede anyone's line of sight because it's on like the upper edge of a curve, you know, so for cars.
Yeah, I mean, it cuts both ways. You would never, like, it's never in your way driving that road. It's always in your view driving that road. It's just blocking not the road, right? It's at both sides, you're always
Just the
seeing
house.
it, as opposed to the inside of the corner, you might not actually see. This is the corner. It's what every car sees as it goes through. But, you know, yeah.
Are there
Sorry.
any other options outside of 40 feet back? Like, is there any,
I mean, your other options without even a variance are 4-foot sight proof, so just not as tall. Could you add height to it with wrought iron? To go unsight proof for part of it?
Base.
Yeah, with brick and wrought iron.
Brick and wrought,
have
you
a
know,
brick base.
wrought iron, you know,
Tops.
those are the fences that can be along the sidewalk there. You know, most people, I know that you're right, they're all over town. Some of them that are all over town are, you get a little more exception when it's a side yard. So you're on a corner lot, then that's your backyard that you're fencing. You see that a lot more.
But it's still on the street where people are.
It is, but you know, that's allowed. That's just where the code's written. I will tell you, my neighbor that had one that went 4 foot, they ended up having to take, well, they didn't have to take it down. It just looked like crud after 2 years. I don't know why that fence did so bad, but, so the new owners immediately tore the fence down. Because it didn't look good. And they were in a much more visible place than yours is, with a much bigger, longer fence. So I'm not saying it couldn't look good, but it's always gonna look like a wooden site-proof fence that's kind of not what anybody else has. Any other thing to add before we go to discussion?
I believe that's it. Yep.
Okay, thank y'all. If we could get a motion to approve BOA 2022-163 as conditioned by staff.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I mean, I agree with you, Chairman Rainey. I think 4 foot, a hedge, or wrought iron is how your options here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right. Anything else? All right, if, Mr. Secretary, will you give us a roll call, please?
The motion was to approve.
Always do a motion in the affirmative, so if you're not approving it, then you'd vote no.
Okay, I see. I got you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Scurlock,
No.
Ms. Baker,
No.
Ms. Boston,
No.
Mr. Bruce,
No.
Mr. Claybrook, Vice Chair Savage Towns.
No, I find that the standards of the UDC are, of 9.22.6 are not being met, and that the property would be unduly detrimental to the other properties in the vicinity.
Chair Rainey.
No. All right, the motion fails. Best of luck finding a good solution for that. I do love y'all's house. I know exactly where it is. It's a beautiful house.
Beautiful
So,
yard,
yeah.
too. You're lucky to have that beautiful place.
All right, are there any other announcements? No, we actually have we're going to adjourn the meeting and then we have some training to do real quick. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.